Part 1 video in this series discussed the framework God has provided Israelite nations for our policies and actions based on his promises and blessings to our patriarchs Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. In Part 2 video, I discussed statements and actions President Trump has taken that have an impact on America's security. In Part 3 video, I discussed how Germans and German masqueraders have stolen my business and economic development ideas and have made me suffer throughout my life. In this Part 4 video, I will discuss President Trump's economic policies to grow the US economy. Hello friends, this is Unmasked Truth with Harmanjit Saini, where I provide a unique analysis of world events based on the unmasked truth that after surrender, Germany continued World War II clandestinely and became a killing machine. I also provide true news that you will find nowhere else. Now, in Part 1 video, I provided information on which nations are descended from the 12 tribes of Israel. The United States is descended from Joseph's son Manasseh. British Commonwealth nations of Britain, Canada, Australia, New Zealand, and whites in South Africa are descended from Joseph's son Ephraim. Other nations descended from the other tribes of Israel include the Jews in Israel and worldwide, and a branch in Ireland, primarily from the tribe of Judah, but also some from Levi and Benjamin. France descended from Reuben. Simeon and Levi were prophesied to be dispersed among all the tribes of Israel, with the largest portion of Levi or the priestly tribe living among the Jews. Holland is descended from Zebulun, Finland from Issachar, primarily Denmark and some in Ireland from Dan, Switzerland from Gad, Belgium from Asher, Sweden from Naphtali, Norway, Iceland, and some Jews from the tribe of Benjamin. We should treat all the nations descended from the patriarch Jacob as the commonwealth of Israel in our dealings with each other. I also listed God's promises and blessings conferred on our patriarchs Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, and us as their descendants, which also impose obligations on us on how we deal with other nations. In light of those obligations, in Part 2 video, we discuss some of the statements President Trump made concerning the Panama Canal, Canada, Greenland, and Gaza, and actions he has taken that will have an impact on our security. In this regard, we should consider how God dispossesses nations of their land. In Genesis 15 verses 13 and 16, God told Abraham, "Then he said to Abram, know certainly that your descendants will be strangers in a land that is not theirs, and will serve them, and they will afflict them 400 years. But in the fourth generation they shall return here, for the iniquity of the Amorites is not yet complete." God did not dispossess the Amorites and the Canaanites of their land in the days of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, because their sins were not yet full. But when their sins had reached the stage where there was no hope of their repentance, ancient Israel dispossessed them of their land. The Palestinians are on the same trajectory. They show no signs of changing their ways, but it's not God's time yet to dispossess them of their land in Israel. That's why Israel should not be party to any plans to remove the Palestinians from Gaza, or Israel will be punished according to God's warning in Hosea 5 verse 10, which states, "Judah's leaders are like those who move boundary stones. I will pour out my wrath on them like water, like a flood of water." That this is an end-time prophecy is clear from Hosea 5 verse 5, which states, "And the pride of Israel does testify to his face. Therefore shall Israel and Ephraim fall in their iniquity, Judah also shall fall with them." Anciently, Israel and Judah did not fall together. They are prophesied to fall together in the end time. In Part 3 video, I discussed how I had offered to work with the Trump administration to help implement his ideas on making the US economy boom again, rather than listen to the advice of those who say he does not need to pay me to work with the administration because he can have access to my very best ideas as I offer them for free, and Satan and the demons broadcast them anyway to the world. Then I described how I've been made to suffer by German masqueraders throughout 43 years of my living in the United States and prevented from making a decent living. In part 3 video, I had stated that in part 4 video, I will briefly explain my accomplishments in the hope of convincing President Trump that I can deliver on really making the American economy boom and develop international trade linkages that will nullify efforts of countries forming confederacies to destroy the value of the US dollar or control our supply chains and charge us whatever prices they want and hold our economy hostage with the ultimate goal of destroying it to make most Americans suffer. I've decided not to list my accomplishments in this part 4 video because President Trump is already familiar with some of them. He was informed of some of them on the day of his inauguration by CEOs of the tech titans such as Alphabet, Tesla, Amazon, and others. I've also discussed them in many other places. The reason why I will not list my accomplishments is that I have decided to face the reality that there is zero chance that President Trump will choose to work with me on the US economy. If he wanted to do that, he would have called me during the transition period from the election on November 5, 2025 to inauguration on January 20, 2025 as he started working with Elon Musk and others. I will discuss those reasons first and then analyze President Trump's economic policies. Now, President Trump had heard that I had laid out the best plan to help grow America's economy in January 2021. That plan can have a major impact on the US economy and its international trade within 2 years, and within 4 years make America impervious to attacks by nations that are forming confederacies to undermine the US dollar and its economy. The possibility of working with the Trump administration was really an outside chance that I was thinking about, but never really expected it to come to fruition because of the reality of the sides to which we belong. I belong to the side of white Americans of non German ancestry. President Trump belongs to the side of Americans of German ancestry and their allies. That was demonstrated when he ordered the assassination of my nephew and my brother and refused to rescind his order. That's why the assassination attempt was made on his life on January 13, 2024. That's when he ordered his side to fight, 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 which was a declaration for a civil war in the United States and British Commonwealth nations. Then probably an assassination attempt was ordered on my brother, for which the second assassination attempt was made on Mr. Trump's life on September 15, 2024. The order for the civil war on July 13, 2024 has been carried out. A genocide attempt was made to exterminate all people descended from the patriarch Israel, which nations I've already mentioned. As many as 300 million people could have perished when their food was poisoned in a coordinated fashion in a confederacy with nations from which we import food. However, God intervened to prevent this genocide attempt from succeeding as he had intervened in 2000 and 2001. In other videos, I've explained the genocide already committed in the United States by murdering nearly 10 million white Americans of non-German ancestry from 1960 to 2000 and forcing abortions of approximately 30 million white babies to control their population. Then another genocide was attempted in 2000 to 2001 when German masqueraders sent out a call to murder as many Israelites, meaning white Americans of non-German ancestry and the Jews, as possible by poisoning their food or by other means. Sikhs in Punjab, India were included in this directive. The main targets were IT professionals, scientists, serving and retired top military officers, statesmen, business, and political leaders. The order also went out for German masquerader spouses who had married non masquerader spouses to murder their spouses and their own children. These orders were carried out. People were poisoned or other murder attempts were made, but God intervened to prevent these attempts from succeeding. This intervention probably saved tens of millions of lives in America alone and probably additional millions in British Commonwealth nations. Of course, I learned of this genocide attempt over the past 6 months only about 3 weeks ago. My offer to work with President Trump on the economy was made well before inauguration on January 2025. With all these events since then, it's absolutely clear that there is no chance that President Trump will work with me on growing America's economy. The reason is that we are in the opposite camp, each bent on exterminating the other. My plan for growing America's economy involves developing a whole new economic partner in the Punjabis and other North Indians where I come from. But Germans and German masqueraders in the United States, that's people of German ancestry living in white countries, of whom President Trump is the chief leader, are allied with other Indians that include Prime Minister Modi's Gujarat state and South India. They are the same Indians who seek to exterminate the Sikhs and Punjabis of North India because of their alliance with the Germans. I was formerly a Sikh from India who converted to Christianity 51 years ago. My plan involves making North India the manufacturing hub of the world, replacing China so that China can no longer have much impact on the US economy. It would also take away much business from Indians allied with the Germans and German masqueraders. That's why one can see that President Trump could never have accepted my proposal because we are in the opposite camps. Moreover, a few days ago, Prime Minister Modi of India visited the United States and had discussions with President Trump. From all accounts, he has offered to the United States most of what my plan offered. Now there is absolutely no more reason for President Trump to work with me, even if he may have remotely considered it. He can work with his allies with whom his side has worked with for over 75 years, beginning soon after India's independence in 1947. President Trump has also received other counsel of his own people who have advised him that he does not need to work with me or pay me anything for my services. They've advised him to stay silent, and I have a habit of giving out my best ideas that help the country or our best corporations for free. That way, President Trump's team will have access to all my ideas without having to pay for anything. After all, their goal, among other goals, is to prevent me from earning any money, to keep me in poverty, and prevent me from marrying. They've been able to accomplish all that ever since I came to the United States in August of 1981. Moreover, the Germans had asked Satan in about 2000 to give them access to my thoughts by broadcasting them so that they could have access to my business ideas. Satan and the demons have been doing that ever since. Therefore, President Trump will also have access to my ideas for helping the US economy that way. For all these reasons, I will not be asked to work with his administration to help America's economy grow. Because we are in the opposite camps that are working to exterminate the other side, amply demonstrated by the 3 genocide attempts, I will be fighting for our side to defend it. Our side is already working on my plan for the economic development of North India, including other Indians not allied with the Germans and German masqueraders. There is no doubt in our mind that Indians allied with the Germans and German masqueraders will do anything in their power to stop us from developing economically. We are on a collision course in India, but we are not pushovers for the Germans and German masqueraders side and their Indian allies. We will fight to defend ourselves and our interests. Now let's look at President Trump's plans to grow the US economy. Because his economic plan is still unfolding, it's difficult to predict how the US economy and the economies of other nations will be impacted. I will be closely monitoring how the plan unfolds. However, I can foresee some trends that may be good for the US economy, while others may be downright bad. First, look at the general effects of tariffs. The administration's tariffs plan is still unfolding as the feasibility and effects of reciprocal tariffs are still being studied. In general, tariffs benefit net importers, and the USA is a net importer by far, having a trade deficit with virtually every country on earth. Tariffs will provide revenue for the government but will no doubt lead to higher prices for consumers. Trump's plan is to provide tax cuts for consumers so that the impact of higher prices is mitigated somewhat. One cannot predict on a net basis whether the consumer will be a beneficiary or a loser, but because of higher prices, the relatively poor will suffer because they hardly pay any taxes except Social Security taxes, and tax cuts will not benefit them. Therefore, the poor class will become poorer. President Trump is on the side that likes to cut taxes for the rich. The rich will definitely become richer due to tax cuts. That's what all the tax cuts of the past were designed to achieve, because German masqueraders are the rich among us. They achieved that by using threats to allow only those who had met the hurdle qualification of murdering a white American of non German descent to succeed in the entertainment and sports industries. Many times they also controlled businesses with threats and discriminating against businesses not owned by German masqueraders. Now, effects of German policies around the world are clearly visible for all to see. They promote a few to become super rich while the rest of the population lives in abject poverty. We can see that in India, where Ambani, Adani, Tatas, and a few others are beginning to control more and more of the economy, whereas poverty is growing and the government hands out free rations to about 815 million people, more than half of India's population. The same is true of Palestinians, where three or four leaders are billionaires, whereas most of the rest of the population is surviving on foreign aid. I hope the US Congress will work to prevent tax cuts for the rich, which the administration will without doubt attempt. Initially, there will be pain due to tariffs, as President Trump and Elon Musk have indicated. But President Trump is right in that it will bring more manufacturing jobs to America, leading to higher wages. He is pursuing the managed trade model, which incidentally I had recommended since 1983 and described in my paper in 1996. I agree with President Trump's approach concerning tariffs. In an analysis of UN Comtrade data, moneycontrol.com shows that of the 1.3 trillion deficit the US faced in 2024, 65% or over 800 billion came from 20 major commodity groups. Cars were the primary category of deficit for the US, accounting for $160 billion in 2024. Closely followed by computers, with the US deficit was $100 billion, and mobile phones, which ran a deficit of $76 billion. Other commodity groups next in importance for trade deficit were medicine $61 billion, crude $55 billion, vaccines $55 billion, parts and accessories of motor vehicles $45 billion, and parts of computers $31 billion. Higher tariffs will force some of these suppliers to shift some of their manufacturing to the United States. Others may react by lowering their tariffs against the US manufactured products, which will mean rise in US exports. Both ways will increase higher wage US manufacturing jobs. With higher average wages but also higher prices, it's not clear whether the US consumer will be the net beneficiary. My expectation is that the US consumer will be a net beneficiary. Therefore, I endorse President Trump's tariff policy. However, I see some negative consequences of the tariff policy because it does not distinguish between economic allies and economic foes who are always plotting and planning to undermine us. Canada, Britain, Japan, and South Korea are economic allies. Tariffs against them make no sense. At present, no tariffs have been announced against Europe, Japan, and South Korea. Tariffs against Canada and China have been announced. We want America's economy to be fully integrated with ours and the two people to live as one. Therefore, a trade war against China should not even be contemplated. Britain, Japan, and South Korea are independent economies and are not bound to each other as in the European Union. They are amenable to amicable trade agreements through negotiations. For security reasons, they are also our allies against China. I hope the Trump administration has such a plan to deal with them. Now, Britain, Japan, and South Korea are also resource poor. They need to import a lot of raw materials and food. They need trade surpluses for their economic survival. Because of our common security interest, the US has to provide them most of their trade surplus. The agreement on how much manufacturing should be done in the United States versus how much in their own countries could be managed through negotiations rather than tariffs. Now, because of the same security arrangements, same security considerations, I would advise the United States to include the Punjabis and North Indians as trade partners because Punjabis will always be military allies of the United States and British Commonwealth nations. For the same reasons, the trade relationship with them will never turn adversarial like it can with some other Indians and has already turned completely adversarial in China. The effect of tariffs will also be greatest impetus for other nations to continue undermining the dollar and replace it with digital currencies and considerably reduce its share as a reserve currency. That's where President Trump will likely be making a mistake in dealing with the existing German allies in India like Prime Minister Modi. They will work with the United States for trade benefits for themselves, but will also continue working clandestinely to undermine the dollar. They are with Germany, Europe, China, and other BRICS nations on that, who are doing everything they can to do so. One can expect them to switch policies to ones that benefit them the most at any point in time. The USA in totality is not what they owe loyalty to. That drawback will not be present in dealing with the Punjabis and other North Indians. Moreover, President Trump will likely not change his policies because Modi's side is allied with his side and the Germans, whereas the Punjabi and North Indian side is allied with the Americans and Britons of non-German ancestry. Tariffs also present another deadly danger with nations ganging up to restrict trade with the United States. We should expect Europe and China to lead that effort. Both groups have already signed trade agreements with Latin America in attempts to isolate America and British Commonwealth nations. These attempts are already underway. Moreover, some nations in Latin America have already joined the Confederacy, and the latest attempt to commit genocide against the United States, British Commonwealth nations, and Northwest European nations with means that they are totally committed to the camp that seeks to undermine us. They know that the atrocity they committed cannot go unpunished. We only have a few short years to secure their supply lines. It goes without saying that we should expect retaliation in every form possible for tariffs. So what form can restriction of trade with us take? Whatever capital and technology insensitive goods they need to import, they will import from each other, reducing dependence on the United States for such goods. They will try to collude with each other to raise prices of low technology manufactured goods we import from them. They may also use threats against some nations or coercion through their trade agreements to accomplish that. That's how we can be isolated in international trade. That's why we need reliable trading partners that can supply all the low manufacturing technology goods we need to import. I will continue to address President Trump's other actions and policy initiatives in the other parts of the series of posts. Thank you very much for watching this video. Please continue to watch my videos on important world events, World War III watch, politics, international business, how Bible prophecy is playing an important role in world affairs, advice on health and medical problems, and much more for in-depth and insightful analysis. Please also follow me on my X, YouTube, and Facebook channels Unmasked Truth with Harmanjit Saini. My X handle is X at True News Saini. A reminder that I have renewed my Premium Plus subscription on X, which it will be my main platform for posting my videos and text of videos.